Yeah, so the reason I wanted to talk to you was I have a little funny Instagram. So I like LinkedIn a lot for I like people and I like pipeliners, so I use that as a way to reach out to people professionally. And I have a little funny page called YYC Pipeliner, which some of that stuff isn't always appropriate for the professional world. And I noticed you and you were following that page. And I thought, oh, this person, Pipeline, awesome. I should reach out to this person. That's how I ended up connecting with you.
I love that. I think social media is actually bringing like something completely different to our industry that we didn't have before. Like we can connect and network with so many different people that we would never have had to. Like I remember having to office, like shaking people's hand and like giving them a physical resume. So
Hmm.
the fact that we can connect with different people from all kinds of like not just like pipeline but like facility, site, everything.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting because, I've always told people I know pipeline isn't a conventional career for many people, but it is becoming a career path people choose. So in the past, a lot of pipeliners, myself included, haven't had a resume. Nowadays, I'm encouraging people, hey guys, if you're a pipeliner, I don't care what you are, whether you're a lab operator, foreman, viro, say what you need to have a resume and you need to consider developing a professional profile on a platform like LinkedIn and present yourself. Like that's how you make yourself a professional.
You're putting your best foot forward too. You're showcasing, and it's not just your certifications because obviously you need to have like a lot of evidence to what your skill is. So I also think like the school of life is exponentially more important than whatever you can learn from a book. I learn so much more hands on, and to be able to like communicate that on paper is a little more tough.
No, for sure. Yeah, something about pipeline has always attracted to me. I mean, I grew up in it as a kid, but even now, the fact that the barrier to entry is different than most industries. Like you still need to have safety training, all these certification, and the normal requirements to go on a job, piss tests and stuff like that. It collects a very interesting group of people that would never find their way to other industries, and I love that. Like I love that. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos. I love that I've traveled around, and I love that. Some people, no names, obviously. Some have records from a dodgy past that they've overcome, and they've had certain mental, emotional, even physical addiction issues and stuff, but they've all kind of persevered and got through them. And this industry seems to welcome you with open arms, and something about that I love so much.
We come from this background where we may have not come from generational wealth, but we can create it in this lifetime, which is really cool. Like to be able to not be university educated and to be
Hmm.
like, wow, I can make this money and have so much more freedom.
For sure.
But
Yeah,
I think
no,
with
for
that,
sure.
like, we have to understand the balance of like feast and famine within this
Hmm.
industry. And by famine, it's definitely not feminine, but like we have, the ebb and flow with work. Like we have the boom and then we have the lulls. So to be able to prepare for those moments too, and to be able to like mentally handle those challenges is
Hmm.
like something we sometimes don't prepare for.
Well, for sure. And I think it's almost a skill you need to develop over time because I've talked to especially a lot of young people. So say we've had the past 5, 6, 7 years here in Alberta and BC with between everyone talks about Trans Mountain and Coastal, but there was a bunch of other projects going on at the same time with other companies, and all of a sudden, so people became a pipeliner in that time, and they've never had to go through that, like you said, the famine. So all of a sudden, they see something special here. They see great money, they see a future, they see a great community of people, and all of a sudden, they find that there's no work. So they might not have that same. network that you and I have developed over the years to be able to, who do I reach out to? They only have a couple foremen they know to reach out to. Like, what advice would you give to even young people trying to survive this first lull in their professional lives?
That's a really interesting question because I definitely wasn't I wasn't immune to that lull. And first and foremost, preparing and saving your money. Like making sure you have your float good to go. And that is tough when you're at camp and you're stashing all your money and you're bored and then you're spending all your money. So to be able to save it for a rainy day, per se, is very important. I was able to have a lot of time off last year just purely because, recovering from burnout or just enjoying like being in a moment instead of constantly grinding. So to be able to educate yourself and be comfortable during that time, like, and absolutely networking, like whether it's calling, emailing, like it's so important to just make those connections outside of your current network.
For sure. And it's funny because it is like a community of people, and I find because even people have reached out to me for looking for work or is there any seats available, and I'm always happy to pass along anything I know, of course. But like, it is a welcoming community because if you reach out to a bunch of different people, rarely will they not make time for you and talk to you. And usually, if you've been in the industry for 5 or more years, usually you know a bunch of the same people these as other people anyway.
Absolutely. So like to be able to even reach out to your past coworkers, I've done the same and I've had past coworkers reach out to me. I always want to help people that I can personally. I think personally vouching for someone is important, and also to be able to not be a gatekeeper. Like I don't like coming from a if you come from a lack mentality where you're hoarding your resources and not wanting to share those. I think that's like some people may have that mentality where you don't want to share your wealth, but it's really important to share that wealth because it comes back to you.
For sure. I think so too, but I've noticed in my own life, of all the people I've met, I've had so much help and support over the years in terms of mentoring and people who've helped me along the way. I know it doesn't come naturally to everyone, unfortunately. And I don't think people do it obviously out of insecurity. They don't want to give up, information or a
Fear.
job potentially. And I get that. I really do. And other people I've met, India, they're like they do it naturally. They can't stop themselves from helping, mentoring, teaching, bringing up that next group behind us. Like in your own life, like who has helped you on your journey? And again, personally or professionally.
I've had like I said, I'm not a generational pipeliner. So I came here nearly 13 years ago. I had a couple of friends, and it was a friend of a friend who got my foot in the door with pipeline, and meeting people along the way, and people that like have shown interest in talking to me or giving me advice. That doesn't I try to keep that in mind. So like I've had so many people encourage and motivate me along this way. It's been so amazing because I wouldn't be where I am today without it's almost like when you trace it back, you're like, if I hadn't met this person, I wouldn't have done this. And then if I hadn't have done that, then I wouldn't have had this experience. And when you look back on it, it's just like this tapestry of experiences that you're like, when did that happen? That is very complicated network of people, and then it just helps me so much with my experience, and to be able to pass that on is so important. So if somebody shows a particular interest in what I'm doing within quality control, I will be like, yeah, this gauge does this and this does that, and it's fun to be able to pass that on because there's going to be a lot of people who are in their retirement phase soon, and to be able to learn from that, that's such a wealth of knowledge that
For sure.
we like, I like that needs to stay in the industry.
And probably now more than ever because a lot of, again, I say younger people, but people who are new to the industry who maybe their life isn't set up for going for 3, 4, 5, 6 months without work. So they really want to be a pipeliner, but you know what they do? They have a house and a truck and a wife and the kids and all. They just can't make it. So unfortunately, a lot of these people end up leaving the industry because they would like to stay, but they just can't make it. And I don't want to put you on the spot at all, but like, who are some of the names that pop into your head when I say, India? Who are some of these people that have helped you on your journey by pipeline?
Mark Dewey, he's a tech for RMS. He has just always been such a like you would never tell from someone's demeanor, but when he speaks to me and texts about like, hey, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and that's just like that kind of stuff. Like it really does make me think, wow, I feel like whatever I'm doing, I need to keep doing it. I'm doing something right. It's like your energy and how you like move forward, and you can move around this world. You can move around this world like with a cloud over your head, or you can be like, you know, a little bit more open, like a little bit more enthusiastic, if that feels authentic to you. And I think when it came to that transition around like when I was a little bit more motivated by Mark, I was going through like a major life change, like life circumstances. Sometimes they just fall apart. And when you're going through that, you see work as like a means to an end. And when you I changed like my view about it, and then I was like excited to go to work. So it's that encouragement and like the people that you work with, like they're your second family, if you like it or not.
So, in that vein, like, so how important it is to you to be surrounded by these kind of people that share these same values in your life when it comes to work.
Absolutely. Well, and we may have like differences of opinions, and uh, all of like everyone comes from every walk of life, but to be able to pick up on someone's energy, or how they like, if they're moving around like in a kind of like they're trying to just get through the day. And I think to be able to like be sensitive to that is very interesting, because you're not just like thinking about yourself, you're thinking about like how other people are as well. Like, are they okay? How are they doing? How are things at home? Like all of that.
Yeah, again, I think you looking out for some of those people and even thinking these things, I would say it might come more easy to you than others. But
Absolutely.
when it comes to these camp and the remote jobs, one thing I always like to ask people about is what is their thoughts on some of the mental health challenges we are struggling with in our industry? Because statistically, whether it's pipeline or construction, whatever you want to talk about, like the numbers are very skewed towards construction in terms of unfortunately people taking their own lives. Unfortunately, most of them are men. Like, have you had some exposure to this and been able to, I don't know, put your arms around people to support them?
I I absolutely have had experiences where, like in camp, I had a few years in camp prior to 2023, and it was a really it was a good time because I was able to like save money and enjoy not like having a home base for a while. But in that, there was those challenges of mental health, and I found like the more I was open, the more people shared with me their stories, and I think especially men like to be able to have someone to talk to, whether it's just like a couple of minutes on the field, like, oh, hey, like, if they had a tough day or had a tough phone conversation, like, it's important to process and like talk it through, even if someone's just there to listen, like, not necessarily give advice, but to have like the confidence and to be able to feel comfortable to reach out to someone is like incredibly powerful because like I'm so proud that I was kind of going through the start of my sober journey back then. So I enjoyed having the dialogue with people because I was also going through like my own mental health. So it's definitely important to just have that connection, like even if it is just out on the field, have a chat, and I hope like more guys just get more comfortable with having that conversation because we're humans. We can't be deprived of that connection. We need to have that community.
I know when we had some meetings last summer in camp, and they originally modeled around AA and NA meetings. But what ended up happening after a few of these meetings, what we found was, it although that's an issue, of course, in our industry and people struggling, and what we found is after a few meetings, it was more people just needed a safe place to talk and share, and the conversations changed from issues of drugs and alcohol and to issues of things they were struggling in at home, and anxiety, depression. Again, people were so grateful to be working, but the money wasn't enough because they'd been off for 6 months, and actively some relationships were falling apart at home, and there's kids involved, and unfortunately some issues of childhood abuse and sexual abuse and stuff, those came up from when they were kids. And it's just there's no place in these remote areas to have these conversations, so we feel very fortunate to create a safe space where we can have some of these. But I don't think that was a one isolated camp, one isolated summer, one isolated job, but we need that almost on every single job. And I don't know how to create that, because when I talk to some of the guys about, hey, by the way, we have all these resources for you, not just for therapy, but for counseling, for financial stuff, for medical shit, like whatever, and it's all free, it's for you, whatever. And I heard the same thing multiple times, that they are more comfortable talking about these very intimate issues in these meetings. I call them meetings, it was like a little group of people, than phone some random stranger on a 1-800 number, because they said, well, they're not pipeliners on the other end of that call. I guarantee it. They do not understand. No matter what I say, they will not understand. And that was really eye-opening for me, that someone would rather, share tears with a bunch of other pipeliners. And again, these are guys and women. They would rather do that than phone a confidential line. And that was very eye-opening for me.
That actually makes a lot of sense because to be able to have that face-to-face human interaction, we need eye contact. We need to be able to, even if guys aren't necessarily like, I think having a hug, like those kind of things, you release. So like I'm sure in those meetings, a guy will be like, reach out and touch someone on the shoulder. So to be able to like have those meetings was probably absolutely eye-opening and just a game changer for them. Especially, I think these things like trauma, past trauma, it comes up when we have the space to process. And that might not necessarily be the most convenient time to process, but it's coming up regardless, whether you like it or not. It's going to be a challenge. So to be able to have that in-person meeting is definitely necessary. Like we need to have those times and spaces in camps, or when we have like big spreads going on, like a community, like even if it has to be convenient. So if it was somewhere before or after work where the offices are, and you want to be able to encourage people to go there. But I think also some companies don't allow that space, like when they work through stat holidays and tell us at the 11th hour, like which days we have off. So we have to book stuff last minute. It's expensive, it's stressful. So to be able to have the time and the space to have those moments is also really important.
For sure. No, I appreciate the 7 day a week comment because that's come up a lot. Like the 6 and 1 is one thing, but in these camps, sometimes guys do need that day off, the Sunday, to sleep in, to go out Saturday night and maybe have a few drinks or whatever, just to recharge the batteries with their friends and have a laugh. And sometimes, we end up taking that away from a lot of guys, and I think that's a big problem. Is that it's working 7 days a week thing, regardless of what the allowable days worked are. It's definitely one of the problems we've encountered. Do you mind if I ask, India, like what kind of inspired you to start a sobriety journey in the first place?
I I realized I didn't like this, like kind of like a Russian roulette of like which kind of India you would get. So like you might have gotten the 3 drink minimum, like jokester cracking jokes, or you could have got like maybe the opposite of that, the unfun, like not cool, a little bit rude. I won't say a couple of swear words, but yeah, she wasn't very cool. She's not a good hang. So yeah, I realized it wasn't an addition to my life. So from there on out, I was like, I'm really interested in something that's an investment in myself. And for me, I couldn't see where that factored into my life. It was just like you let off steam, like you said. But I think that definitely that term is like a slippery slope, because I think when it comes to letting off steam, at this point, when someone asked me recently how I let off steam, and I'm like, but I honestly don't have steam. I don't have there's no like wheels spinning off anymore. I'm 2.5 years in now, and I've come to that point where I'm like, I don't need to do something wild to feel like I'm letting off energy, I guess. But like dedicating myself to like a good routine, going to bed at the same time, working out, eating good, working on things that are gonna give me a longer term of like good posture, healthy body. Like I want to be a fit 80, 90-year-old. And obviously like this job is hard on our bodies. Like we're doing so much like bending, lifting, and we might not be necessarily taking care of our bodies at all times, but like once you're aware and a little bit more, you keep it in the back of your mind where you're like, oh cool, I shouldn't just like have a shortcut where I can like get it done sooner. I'll be a little bit more mindful and then have a good practice. So it's like that's something I'm trying to kind of recalibrate with my habits even today.
I know like when it talks about sobriety and not drinking, and that's a conversation that actually, thankfully, actually is coming a lot more up on these jobs. And I had a great conversation with a guy I'm going to say last spring, and he told me before we were doing these meetings, he said, you know, I was glad to have the winter off because I made the decision to stop drinking. And he said, you know, I really thought, well, I need this winter. I'm going to do it by myself in 6 months. And he said, sure as shit, the call came in end of March. Okay, you need to be here in 2 weeks. And he's like, oh man, I didn't have my 6 months. Like I really wanted that before I got to site. And what he told me was, when he got to site, he said it caught him off guard because he said he wasn't embarrassed to talk about not drinking and stuff. He said that wasn't the problem. He knew the guys were going to be good with it. Like the stereotype that people give you shit about not drinking. He said that's not the reality for our group. But he said what caught him off guard was how supportive everyone was. And he said he got through it, and he said it was just amazing. So that overwhelmed him, the support. So the not drinking, and you know the beers in the Foreman Shack. Again, now there's actually a lot of non-alcoholic drinks in that fridge now, and not pop. I'm talking like the mocktails and the non-alcoholic beers, stuff like that. That's becoming more of a common thing, and that's something I'm really pleased about.
That's so cool because it's like a guy who is sober, you can be like, oh, I don't want to go there because there's not going to be options or space for me. And to be able to mitigate that by having it inclusive, like you're able to still like have that social aspect without necessarily, staying out all night, getting to bed at 4 a.m., getting terrible sleep. You're gonna be you're gonna be able to like be in charge of your faculties, be like, cool, I've had a couple hours, I feel good, I've chatted, I have like I have had some social interaction outside of work too. I think that's really important because we also work, sleep, repeat. To be able to have the social life as well is like so important, and we're able to do that sober or drinking, like because I can hang with both, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no, I have friends as well. Some are do drink non-alcoholic beers and nons and mocktails, and other people they said that they can't even do that because it's they just can't. And
That's yeah, it
yeah,
trigger or
but
something.
it's a trigger or something. But it's so cool that whereas the mental health conversation, we try to make it more common and more normal and more comfortable by having it more. I'd say that sobriety thing with the not drinking, that's further down the path. Like I have so many people in my life, including a bunch of pipeliners and non-pipeliners that don't drink anymore, and they don't drink for various reasons. And all of it is okay and so normal. Where the conversation of, hey, well, why don't you drink? Those questions just don't get asked anymore because now people realize, oh yeah, that's actually not a cool question to ask someone because maybe they don't want to talk about it. If they bring it up, great, but it's just an odd question, and some of those questions don't even come up anymore. So it's nice to see that challenge in our industry. I'm not saying it's getting solved, but we're moving in the right direction for sure.
I agree, absolutely. And it's removing the stigma as well. Not just with like, oh, you don't drink, you're boring, you're this, you're like, oh, come on, just have one. No one's doing that, no one's saying that. And we're able to just like be like, okay, like, oh, if you want to share it, cool. Like, if not, like listening, not judging. And yeah, removing the stigma even around like the mental health as well. Like, where, where like we can actually have the conversations about all of it, and it not be judged by any means.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, it's so funny. Before we got talking, I forgot to even ask you about where you're from, because we're actually meeting for the first time. So I never asked you where you're from, where did you grow up, all that kind of stuff.
I'm from Australia, from Brisbane. I for some weird reason, always thought I would live in North America. Like, weird little childhood fantasy where I'm like, I don't feel like this is home. And so it's so serendipitous that like I kind of forgot that for a while, and then I was like, man, it was really I had like some little dream that I was like gonna live in Canada or the US or something, and it just happened to be Canada, and I met the right people, and yeah, just kind of fell in here. But I came around like 2012, so obviously that was an interesting time. There was a boom, and after that, it kind of tapered down a little bit. So I've definitely seen, you know, the ebb and flow of the industry, and started at the bottom too. So it's been an interesting journey.
Do you ever envision a life after pipeline, or is this kind of the path you're on with your career, or what's your thinking?
I always see myself around the industry. I'm in quality control, so with welding and coding. So I always want to be involved in that. But I also like the idea of the creative side, and I think that is, I guess, one thing that pipeline. It depends on how you view creativity, because when I see guys like digging ditches, I'm like, that's creative. But for me, I definitely feel like there's a long term goal with writing. I like doing like meditations and kind of like immersive experience writing. So there's a little bit of everything there, and eventually I'd like to have kind of more of a balance with pipeline and that creative side, because those two really feed into each other. I think, you know, being creative and working in construction, it's like it's not mutually exclusive. We can
Agree.
kind of blend everything together and like inspire each other.
Oh, I like that. Are you able to pursue some of those goals now? Because the tricky thing with pipeline normally is that gypsy lifestyle where you can't stay in one spot for a long period of time and create roots and really explore some of these artistic expressions you're trying to do.
If uh, if there's a routine that I'm dedicated to, say writing or at least like journaling in some capacity, I'm still adding to that like wealth. So
I like that.
yeah, it's definitely not full force yet, but I think it's something that's a work in progress, and I'll feel called to go more down that route when I know, and it's like I'm kind of happy to have it like in the background and like investing in it every now and then, but there's still so much I want to achieve in this industry. Like I came from like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to like I was prep crew, so it was like picking up metal shavings with a magnet. So that imagine like never seeing snow and being in minus 30, picking up metal shavings, because I'm from sunny Queensland where it's humid. It's basically like Florida. So, and I'm like, why are we doing this? This is insane. And then you get your paycheck and you're like, this is great. This is awesome. I'm never leaving this industry. So yeah, I just like got really curious when it came to being a welder's helper, repair crew, coding, everything. So from that to like quality control is just like quality control is now also like the tip of the iceberg. It's like this could lead to so many more opportunities. It's such
Oh, for
a
sure.
endless like it's an end like the opportunities are endless, which is really cool.
It's funny you say quality control because I was talking to one of my kids recently as he was looking for a job, And I always said, you know, everyone says on their resumes they're a detailed oriented person, but that's bullshit. If you want to be a detailed oriented person, you'll end up in quality at one point because those people are actually detail oriented.
Type A.
Yeah. How did you end up in quality anyway?
I originally got my NACE level one, and was mostly working around. I was working at Suncor at the time, and we were doing like bolt up. So I was really breaking my back at that point. And yeah, it was something that I really really was passionate about. I love welding even more. Like I'm not a welder per se, but when I was welders helping, like I loved like being around it. It's just fun. So yeah, getting CWB as well, and then kind of COVID really did like halt my QC journey because like you can have all the tickets in the world, but at that moment in time, it was the people with the experience were definitely, getting the work over someone who was trying to like muscle their way in. So at that point, Mark Dewey got me out on some like double rack, just like visual welding stuff, and kind of went from there.
So when you ended up in Canada, like, are your folks still over in Oz?
Yeah, they're still in Australia. So
You
it's
phoned your
it's
mom
the
today, I hope.
well, if she's awake yet, I'll have to give her a call when it's actually a decent time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
it's the plan to definitely to bring my mum over. She's she's in her 70s, so it's like one of those. I feel that pull to take care of her, and I think that's really important.
would she
I,
come over?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's the plan.
Oh my gosh. Speaking from a parent perspective, shame on you for moving to a different country.
I know, I get that a lot actually.
Yeah.
But I think we like need to carve our own, and we need to like forge our path and like do what feels authentic, and if it's travel and like I think there was always that aspect of like wanting to wanting to like find home, but then realizing like if you stop long enough, you'll feel at home like in yourself, no matter if you're in camp or at your house. Like you gotta feel like that feeling within yourself first.
Oh, I like that. Well, I hope that comes to be. I'd love to see ya. Um, I don't want to let you go, but before I do, is there any type of message or positive support you can share with anyone who might be watching or listening to this right now that might be struggling, whether they're in our industry not working or just beyond our industry? Any basically a word of support before we part ways.
Whatever you do, keep keep your word to yourself. Like if you want to do something, start and keep that promise. It's the only thing that's going to be able to create a snowball effect and to be able to keep moving in a trajectory that you want to go is being consistent and focusing on yourself 100%. Like writing things down, create a routine. You have to invest in yourself and keep your promise to yourself.
I like that. Thank you so much. Maybe next time you come down, you'll sit in the studio here and do it with me again.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, India. Very nice to meet you, my friend, and we'll talk
You as
soon.
well. Thank you so much.